Speaker 3 is code 4241, answering the question, will the Russian brain drain continue while Russia is at war with Ukraine?
There's at least one country in this world that wants peace. In March of this year, after Russia decided to brutally invade Ukraine, nations across the world called for peace between the two. But one nation in particular stood out. They called for Ukraine and Russia to settle their differences peacefully. This sounds good for international peace until you realize that that country was the Taliban. If the Taliban is telling you to calm down, you know things have gotten pretty bad. Still though, as the wonderful Council on Foreign Relations explains on June 9th of 2022, there is currently a brain drain going on in Russia, mostly as a result of the Russia-Ukraine invasion. But what is a brain drain? It's defined as a mass exodus of people like creatives, academics, intellectuals, and entrepreneurs from the country as a result of negative conditions for them to stay there. But now, as the war between Russia and Ukraine languishes, they're considering that the thing that may be hampering their economy is getting even worse. But it's still considering that the New York Times of May 19th, 2022 explains that 70,000 tech workers have already fled for their lives, 5 times the total seating capacity of this room. We must ask, will the Russian brain drain continue while Russia is at war with Ukraine? Absolutely, because the things that caused the brain drain in the first place are still happening. First, because the international community will continue to punish Russia. Second, because technology services will have a difficult time staying in Russia. And third, because a crackdown on human rights will dissuade people from remaining in Russia. The international community's policy towards Russia during this war has been a little bit like a mom putting their son in timeout. You're not going to take your son out of timeout if he keeps doing the thing bad. And if he keeps hitting his little sister over the head with a plastic wiffle bat, that's just going to continue. The first reason Russia's brain drain will continue during this war with Ukraine is ultimately because the international community is going to continue punishing them. A key reason for the brain drain that is taking place right now is international action against Russia. According to Alexei Konstantin for the Chicago Harris School of Public Policy on June 7th of 2022, the international community has levied harsh sanctions against Russia for their war in Ukraine, targeting key sectors in which entrepreneurs thrive. These negative business environments have created situations which make it necessary for these kinds of people to leave, causing the brain drain. But now, as Russia's war with Ukraine continues, those situations are only going to get worse, and the international community will continue. The Washington Post on May 23rd, 2022 contended that the international community, specifically the European Union and United States, have announced a new package of sanctions that targets 5,000 Russian industries. People, the intellectuals who want to work in these industries, won't have the opportunity to do so if there isn't the international environment to support them. But this has more than just impacting the greater Russian brain drain. It impacts the broader Russian economy. Because as Deutsche Welle, a German magazine, explained on June 5th, 2022, Russia's economy can't function without these people. And it's international sanctions against Russian businesses that are making them unable to stay. The CEO of YouTube in February of this year stated that free speech was a core of their core values. This was after they deleted YouTube videos at the request of the Russian government for going for free speech. Clearly, core values are pretty flexible these days. The second reason, though, that Russia's brain drain will continue as their war rages with Ukraine is because technology services will have a difficult time staying there. A key reason that the brain drain occurred in the first place was because intellectuals and entrepreneurs are such a key part of the technology sector. Ars Technica, a technology publication, explained on May 5th, 2022, for Russia, key sectors in the technology industry have the most entrepreneurs and creatives out of any other industry. Take Sergei Aleksin, for example, who started an online ski tour business which helped the country grow. And he was forced to leave the country because the technology sector was no longer functioning. This will get worse as the war rages on with Ukraine, Because as Business Insider of March 19th, 2022 contended, companies from Apple to Amazon to even to YouTube have now pulled out of the country. For domestic workers and international workers alike, this is a death sentence for their brain drain situation. Indeed, as Foreign Policy magazine writes on May 15th of 2022, workers coming in and out of the country will no longer have the opportunity to work with these companies anymore. If you want to come to Russia to work in the technology sector, you can't. And this has two impacts. First, for domestic workers who can no longer work with international companies, and second, with international workers who no longer have a reason to come to Russia to work. The technology sector is so important, and as companies pull out because of Ukraine, people are going to continue leaving. Pulitzer Prize-winning rapper Kendrick Lamar stated in his critically acclaimed song, Humble, for his listeners to remain humble. Clearly, K-Dot hasn't remained on Vladimir Putin's playlist, because he is anything but. The third reason, though, that Russia's brain drain is going to continue is ultimately because Russia's crackdown on human rights will dissuade people from staying. A key reason that the brain drain started in the first place was because of a crackdown on human rights. As Human Rights Watch explained on May 15th of 2021, the brain drain isn't a new phenomenon. Instead, it's been going on for the past 10 to 15 years, as Russia's secret police, the successor to the secret polices that terrorized Russia for centuries, cracked down on the basic freedoms of people in the country. People don't want to stay in a country where they aren't free. And that is only going to get worse during the Russia-Ukraine war. Because, as the Washington Post, this time on June 10th, 2022, reminds, already 15,000 Russians have been arrested in anti-Ukrainian war protests. And entrepreneurs, intellectuals, the smartest people in the country aren't going to stay somewhere they can't be free. Imagine a world where the war continues. One in which the basic freedoms of people continue to not be respected by Vladimir Putin's brutal regime. In this situation, the people who run the Russian economy aren't going to stay in a place they have zero dignity. 70,000 tech workers have already fled. And if there's a message you take away from this speech today, let it be this. For the thing that powers our world, me, you, everybody in this room, it affects all of us. We have an obligation to ask, will Russia's brain drain continue as they go to war with Ukraine? Absolutely, because what caused it is still going on. First, because the international community will punish them. Second, because the technology sector can't stay. And third, because crackdowns on human rights will dissuade people from remaining. Even the Taliban has started calling for peace between Russia and Ukraine. But even that won't reverse the brain drain that is hampering every aspect of their country.